How's it going, YouTube? Oxy here, and welcome back. Today's gonna be a different type of video. Today I'm kind of just, it's like a discussion, right? Open talk, where I'm just gonna explain, why I'm an Xbox collector. And I got the idea, if you watch my recent pickups video, the most recent one, I mentioned how I went to buy like a, funny enough, Donkey Kong Racing. And I met a collector, right? And he had a full, like, complete PS1 collection, and really dope to see. And of course, me and him talked for a bit, that day, and he mentioned, he was like, Xbox, I don't, like, because I told him I mainly collect Xbox, that sort of thing. And he was kind of like, oh, I don't really see that often, because yeah, admittedly, like, PS1 specifically, there's a lot of great, like, RPGs, or you could say games worth your time, like games that you have a substantial amount of just playtime or what have you, content. And yeah, it just gave me the idea. I was like, maybe I should explain why I'm a collector of Xbox, because everyone's either a Sony fanboy or Nintendo, right? And yeah, I'm just gonna go into it. So I guess the main reason is, obviously, I own an Xbox. Thank you guys for watching. Nah, just kidding. But yeah, no brainer. I owned the Xbox. The first console I bought myself was the Xbox One. And yeah, and funny enough, man, I remember I bought it because of, you won't believe it, but Killer Instinct. Obviously Microsoft owns Rare. And I loved it. I love Gold on the N64. And yeah, I was like, I'm gonna get an Xbox, and lucky enough, all my friends had one. I didn't know, I didn't like ask at the time, and yeah, they all had one, so it was destiny. No, but seriously, the big reason is, guys, games are just cheaper on Xbox across the board. Now, sure, if we're talking Xbox One or Series X, last gen and this gen, it's like, the prices are the same, right? It's not too old, but we're talking like the original Xbox and 360 across the board. And again, you can look this up. You will see the Xbox version is always cheaper, and as I'll get into, usually it's the better version too, which is like surprising. So like specifically like 360, yeah, compared to the PS3, usually most cross-platform games will be cheaper on Xbox. A good example, Splatterhouse. Great game. I bought it sealed. Yeah, that's right, sealed. For the 360 for like $35, like under 40. Good luck trying to get it for like, man, what? Like, at the time it was like 70, I think even close to 100 on PS3. And it's the same game. There's literally no difference. If anything, I do believe the 360 version has that exclusive like DLC mask, like Xbox. As far as I know, I don't even think PS3 has that. So you see what I mean? The Xbox version has more, and yeah, it's the cheaper one. And I got it sealed. And crazy, specifically that game. I bought it sealed, but the seller, shout out to you, man. That was truly a great guy. The seal was like ripped, so he actually refunded me the money, and I still got to keep the game. Guys, I got Splatterhouse brand new. Of course, I ended up just opening it, at that point for $2. I literally only paid tax. Shipping was free. So yeah, $2. Anyway, and that's a tangent, but yeah. Again, that's just one game I could bring up. It has value, and of course, both versions are going up. As I've always said, horror games or horror themed always hold their value, and they go up. And yeah, no reason to get it on the PS3 and pay like close to $100 when I got my copy. Well, originally for like under 40, sealed. And yeah, and for that generation, most games were, the 360 version runs better. Now, if we're talking raw power, the PS3 was more powerful, but it was a more complicated system to develop for. So what most games in the 7th generation would do, the 360 version is like the base, right? And then it would get ported over to the PS3. And if you know anything about games or that sort of thing, the original is always going to run better because it was made for it. And then being ported over, obviously there's going to be some give, you know? And yeah, the systems are very different. And like I said, the PS3 is more powerful. On paper, it is. But again, it was harder to develop for, similar to like the Sega Saturn of the past compared to like the original PlayStation. It was just harder to develop for. So most games, again, they run better on the 360. They were made for it, and they're cheaper. But I just don't understand why they're more on PS3. And again, the console sold about the same, like upwards of 80 million. So it's not like the PS3 version is much rarer. Like, no. If anything, the PS3 sold more. So in theory, the 360 version is rare. And it just boggles my mind that people willingly pay more for the same. And then most of the time it runs worse. And then, now, my favorite of all the Xbox generations to collect for is the original. And yeah, specifically there, that's where I just do not understand. Again, it's all about price. And like, so, to put it bluntly, the original Xbox of the 6th generation, so PS2, GameCube, OG, Dreamcast is part of it, but it pretty much like went discontinued before the GameCube and original Xbox came out, so we don't really, you know, for this it's not really part of it, but it is technically. So the big three, right? The OG is by far the most powerful console of that generation, not even close. You're guaranteed, except for very, very few, like probably less than like 5 out of like the almost 1,000 games that came out for the original Xbox, very few will run better on the PS2 or GameCube. It is always the OG that runs it the best. For example, Soul Calibur 2 came out on all consoles, right? Of course, each one had their individual exclusive character. GameCube had Link, PlayStation had Heihachi, Xbox we had Spawn. You have to remember, this was Xbox first console, first generation, so there wasn't a mascot to put it. But Soul Calibur 2 on the original Xbox is the only version that can run at 720p. That's right, 720p HD. Now, yeah, it's through composite or component, you know, it's not HDMI, but the resolution is there natively, not upscaling like on the PS2 or the GameCube. Natively 720p. Now, the aspect is shortened to 4:3, but yeah, that's just one example of, again, the original Xbox is always the better version of that generation. But for some reason, you'll see it more on the GameCube, sometimes triple or like double the price, and on the PS2. And again, they run worse. Like, that's not being a fanboy. That's fact. They run worse, and yet they're more. And again, with PS2, it's funny because that is the best-selling console of all time. It still is to this very day. Over 155 million units sold. Now, obviously, no game has ever sold that many or even been, you know, made into production, but put that into perspective, just something to think about. The original Xbox sold 24 million worldwide. The GameCube, 22 million. Yeah, that's right. Believe it or not, the GameCube of those three is the worst selling. The Dreamcast sold less, but again, it's not really part of this discussion. Yeah, so you hear that. The PS2 sold way more. And yet those versions like of cross-platform games, I should have said that earlier, games that came out on like all platforms, same with like PS3 and 360, multi-plat games came out on both. Yeah, so in theory, the PS2 version, there would be more of them, meaning that the GameCube and Xbox are more rare, the Xbox runs better, and yet they're cheaper. And yeah, that's just my thing. Like, why would I pay more for the inferior version? It just doesn't make sense. And with GameCube specifically, like I said, literally just a 2 million difference in consoles sold worldwide. So you could say they sold the same. So the availability, like, of the GameCube isn't going to be, like, much less than the Xbox. And it's worth sometimes double or triple. Not worth it. And yeah, I just want to spread awareness, like, guys. So, like, you know, you got to put the fanboyism away and just realize that, you know, why would I spend like $50 on this game when I could get it on the Xbox for like $15? You get what I'm saying? So yeah, those are like the main reasons. Price, and again, the Xbox version throughout history usually is the better running. Now Xbox One, PS4 is stronger, like talking base consoles, that will run better. But then Xbox, like I said, consistently is the better option. Then you had the mid-gen upgrade, PS4 Pro, Xbox One X. The One X is by far the more powerful, capable system, so your games will run much better. And then, of course, we come to present day, PS5, Series X. About the same, but the Series X does have a slight advantage. So again, why am I going to pay more for a game that is going to run worse? And sure, sometimes it's like not that noticeable. It'll just be like a couple frames here and there, right? Like the frame rate or things like that. But yeah, it's like it just boggles my mind that people are willing to pay these prices for games that, like, you know, like, it's like you're getting the worst version. And yeah, I just want to spread awareness that, guys, it's not about brand. Like, seriously, you know how much money I save, like, getting games that, like here, I guess an example I could give of the ridiculousness. So, there's a game, I haven't gotten it yet, and it's on my radar, trying to get it, Obscure. Came out on the PS2 and original Xbox. It's like a, funny enough, obscure, pun intended, horror game. It's hard to find on the original Xbox. You can get that game complete for about $90 to $100 right now. Not bad, you know. Pricey, right? You want to know how much it is on the PS2, which, remember, sold way more consoles, like almost, well, not almost, like 6 times, like, you know, it's a 6-to-1 ratio of how many PS2 sold compared to the original Xbox. So, you know, it's safe to say the PS2 version is going to have way more available. And again, it runs worse. Complete, that game is almost $300 on the PlayStation 2. I'm not paying $300 for that game when I'll get the better version on the OG Xbox for a third of the price. And yeah, guys, that was just my little piece. I guess it's pretty much just trying to convince people that, like, you know, history shows Xbox is consistently the better version. Most of the time, not always, right? Most of the time, and it's cheaper. And yeah, you guys are really sleeping on it. And I mean, collecting as an Xbox collector, it's way easier, way more fun. And yeah, like you know, expensive games on the console aren't that bad compared to like some of the crazier ones on the others. And yeah, that's just my thing, guys. It's all about saving money, you know. I mean, what's the point of like being a collector, but then you have to spend like thousands of dollars to, like, you know, build not respectable, but let's say you want more of the obscure, harder to get, expensive games, right? Like, it's much easier to do on Xbox, and that's why I do it, guys. Yeah, that was just my little discussion. I know, kind of a different video, but just want to get the word out there that you guys are really sleeping on it, and again, just more often than not, it's the better version. But yeah, guys, that was just my video. Hope you enjoy, and be on the lookout for new videos every Tuesdays and Saturdays. As always, I've been your host, Oxy. Take care, guys.